Hey, I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Now we are deep in the midst of the Halloween season. If you'll take just one moment and like this video, it will help with the algorithm. Today we're going to talk about a new, for this year, steelbook release of the film, the Gothic horror awesomeness called Sleepy Hollow, directed by Tim Burton, starring Johnny Depp, Christy Ricci, and a cast of amazing supporting actors that we'll talk about later. Now, last year they released a steelbook, and it was a limited. There's a limited copies of it. I wasn't able to get it, unfortunately. But this isn't the same one they released last year. This is a different design, but I think I prefer this one. The one from last year was pretty cool too. It also has, which is kind of similar to the original cover on the back. Now, last year I did go ahead and get. So this was the first time on 4K, and I did get this version of it without the steelbook. Now I've double dipped on the film, but I guess I'll keep both of them. I like this film that much. It's fairly awesome. And I do have a previous DVD version of the film that we're going to talk about. We're going to compare the transfer to this later. Sleepy Hollow is based on a short story written by Washington Irving. It is set in 1790 in a small village called Sleepy Hollow, which is about 20 miles north of New York. The main character is a character named Ichabod Crane, who is a school teacher. He is kind of a lanky, superstitious guy who's kind of a dweeb, but he's likable. He becomes kind of infatuated with a wealthy farmer's daughter named Katrina, and he tries to woo her. But she already has another potential suitor named Brom, who is kind of a big meathead, and he starts to, I guess, try to pick on Ichabod Crane and play practical jokes on him and things of that nature as he's trying to compete with him for this woman's affection. So one night at a harvest party at Katrina's dad's house, they all tell this story of this headless horseman. It was a Hessian horseman who had his head blown off by a cannonball, and he comes to life some nights and he goes after people. So that same night when Ichabod Crane is leaving the party, he's pursued by what appears to be a headless horseman, and he freaks out. It chases him, and it knocks him off the horse, and it takes his head off and throws it at him. And then the next day, he's disappeared, and no one knows where he went. But they find a pumpkin smashed on the ground. That kind of leads most readers to believe that probably what happened was Brom played a trick on him, chased him down the road, scared the shit out of him, scared him out of town. But there's also the possibility that it could have been a supernatural thing that happened. But it kind of leans both ways. In this updated version of the story, Ichabod Crane, the character, is in it, and he has similar personality traits, but this time he is a detective, and it takes place in 1799. He's a detective in Manhattan, New York, and he's sent to Sleepy Hollow to investigate some murders of some people getting their heads cut off. And as far as the character, he does keep some of the character traits. Johnny Depp plays the character, by the way, and he does appear somewhat lanky, and he is somewhat clumsy. He's often portrayed as a coward, but in this one he is not superstitious. He actually leans towards realism, he looks for truth in things, and he is a very capable detective, as the movie shows as it goes on. Now, Johnny Depp does play the character with somewhat of a comedic edge to it, and it works very well, and it's something that led into later on to his Jack Sparrow character in Pirates of the Caribbean, where he amped it up even further. But here it works very well, and he does go from being this kind of cowardly person. He's still afraid of spiders, but and he's queasy around blood, but he does develop more of an inner strength because he really wants to know the truth behind the story. And there is a supernatural aspect to this one, unlike in the original story. It's kind of implied. At first, he thinks it's just a person doing these murders, and so there's also a mystery behind this when it kind of leans its way a little bit towards an Agatha Christie type of story, where you have a lot of characters. There's these town elders who he comes to talk to about what's going on with the murders, and they're played by an amazing supporting cast. The first one who's killed is played by Martin Landau, who played Bela Lugosi in Tim Burton's Ed Wood. But a lot of these actors are regulars of Tim Burton's films, and like Jeffrey Jones, for instance, who played. He was also in Ed Wood and played Charles Dietz in Beetlejuice. But and Michael Gow, who played Alfred in the two Batman movies. Michael Gambon plays Christina Ricci's father here, who's probably the most prominent of these characters. Michael Gambon, as you know, played Dumbledore, the second Dumbledore in the Harry Potter series, and also Ian McDiarmid, I hope I pronounced his name right, but he played the Emperor in some of the Star Wars movies. But he meets with this group of elders, and there's a kind of Agatha Christie type of vibe. There's also a lot of, this is like a lot like a Hammer movie, which is awesome, and it actually amplifies really polishes up some of the like an older Hammer movie. Like a lot of those Hammer movies had to be shot day for night, so they're shooting outside, and it was all obviously daytime, and they try to make it look like night. Here they have it's all at night. It's probably in a studio, but it looks amazing, especially those exterior night scenes, because the Horseman only comes at night typically. But the Horseman, by the way, when he has a head in flashbacks and briefly at the end, is played awesomely by Christopher Walken, another Tim Burton regular who was in Batman Returns as one of the villains. Also, the Brom character appears in here, played by Casper Van Dien, who played the main character in Starship Troopers. And he does a good job here, but the character isn't the main antagonist of this film like he was of the short story. You kind of think that he might be, and that kind of subverts expectations, because he gets killed about half of the way through in an awesome way. He's actually a fairly heroic character, and he tries to fight the Horseman, and he gets cut in half in an awesome scene. Now the special effects here are quite nice. It's a mixture of practical effects and digital effects, but here they're fairly smooth. It's a fairly smooth amount of movie. This is a 1999 film, and I don't know how much was digital and how much was practical, but you can tell sometimes when it's obviously digital, like they throw a head and then it lands, and but it's fine though. It works fine in this film. It doesn't stand out as bad CGI ever. As it goes on in this film, a lot of what's going on is related to witchcraft, so maybe it kind of leans a little bit towards some folk horror. I really like this film in general. I liked all the aspects of it. The first time I saw it, I was a little off-put by the Headless Horseman's actually controlled by another person. I'm not sure why I didn't think that was very clever the first time I saw it, but there is a monologue near the end where the main villain tells the whole plan of what they've done and all that, which it doesn't bother me as much anymore. I was like kind of rolling my eyes at the time because it is a huge cliche, but this film has a lot of charms to it. Even before that, I thought everything in this film was very amazing, and it kind of leans towards a Halloween type of spirit where you've got the autumn. It is fall, but most of the leaves here in the town aren't there. You see some leaves, some autumn leaves coming in, and every now and then you'll see a little bit on the edge of frame, but most of the trees don't have leaves. But they're doing during the first act of it, they're at the home of Michael Gambon's character. He has a bunch of pumpkins around, and the Headless Horseman sometimes has, at one point the Brom character does like pull that trick where he comes after Ichabod Crane with the pumpkin on his head and throws the pumpkin. That happens fairly early in the film, and Johnny Depp's Ichabod Crane, recovers from it, and he doesn't run away like he does in the short story. But I think now that twist works really well, and it actually adds to making the film different from the short story. And the short story is kind of a small amount of material there, but this actually enhances it. And Johnny Depp's performance, and Christy Ricci's actually very good in this too. She is the love interest Katrina, but she's the daughter of Michael Gambon's character. And she's also, Miranda Richardson plays her stepmom, kind of wicked stepmom type of character who's a little bit into witchcraft. And Christy Ricci's character seems to do at one point she cuts off a raven's claw and makes a drink for Ichabod Crane to help him. So maybe that's some witchcraft stuff going on with her too. But she's fairly likable. And there's also a younger kid whose dad is killed by the Headless Horseman who starts to help Ichabod Crane in this, and he ends up lending a fairly big amount of help, saving him a couple times. So let's take a look real quick at the inside parts of the Steelbook. So here it is. You got two discs. You have a Blu-ray and the 4K with a terrific transfer, by the way. This also comes with the steelbook. It's like on the outside of it. They typically have this little insert, which is kind of annoying. It's good to have the information, but it's kind of annoying trying to deal with this paper thing. As far as the transfer, I did spot check it against this, and this isn't, like a DVD version, and I popped it in after I watched the movie. I kind of flipped through some of the movie, and I could see right away that the quality obviously is a lot better in this transfer here. The blacks are much deeper. It still looks pretty good in the DVD, and if you're watching a DVD, you'll probably get used to it fairly quickly. But you can see it's like night and day difference. So if you look at what they've done here in the amount of the quality of this compared to that, it's a lot better. Everything, it almost, if you look at a DVD compared to the 4K release, everything seems to be struggling. The clarity just isn't quite there here. Here in the 4K version, lots of detail you see on the faces. You see lots more sharpness. Everything, the blacks are deeper. Everything just looks better. And I'd recommend the 4K for sure over. I'm not sure what the Blu-ray looks like. It does come with a Blu-ray that has the 4K transfer, so it probably looks pretty good. It's just a little bit of a dip in quality, I would think. Now, I'm also going to put an Amazon affiliate link in the description below, where if you purchase it through that link, I might get a little bit of change or something from your purchase. Now, in conclusion, I really love this film. It's a really fun, and it kind of gives me those fall vibes. It's some gorgeous art direction. The costumes are friggin' amazing. The set design is lavish. It reminds me of older Hammer movies, but maybe it looks even better than them. Like sometimes the blood looks like Hammer blood. Some people don't like this, but sometimes the Hammer blood just looks really fake red. But it doesn't show a lot of blood in this, but when it does, it kind of looks like Hammer blood, especially in this scene in this church where several of the characters are killed. And but it looks very Hammer red, which I like. I mean, I think it brings back the thought of Hammer films to me. And there's also the town is just, every time you see it outside, it's just all these fog everywhere, and it gives it a very eerie, creepy feeling. So I would highly recommend this film. Let me know what you think about it. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. If you haven't done so already, if you would like this video and subscribe to my channel, thanks for watching.